All right. And it looks like everyone can hear and see me okay. Is that correct? Perfect. Keep me posted if something goes funny with my connection or anything like that. But before I get into everything, I would love for us to, I know it can take a lot for us to be actually sitting here today. We all have like very full lives. So I'm just going to invite everyone to just pause what they're doing. And if we could place one hands on our hearts, one hands on our beautiful bellies. And if this feels good to do so, if you can just close your eyes and we're going to just take three big, beautiful breaths together. We're going to breathe in. Exhale. If you can do a little sigh, that activates our vagus nerve a little bit. Breathe in. Just one more time together. Thank you. And let's come back to the space. Sometimes we just need a minute to arrive. A saying in our house is that everything feels better after three big breaths. And it's a motto that we have. So I like to bring it in sometimes to these workshops. All right. Uh, I'm gonna actually, no, I think we should be okay. I think technology is working great. All right. So, for those of you that are new to my beautiful digestive healing world, my name is Heather Woodruff. I am a certified nutritional practitioner. I'm a certified GAPS practitioner. There's some letters behind my name, which, sound fancy, but I really love going off of just digestive health nutritionist or as well as kitchen medicine keeper. I'm a big fan of making beautiful medicine in our kitchen. So amazing, excited about the gaps part. We'll talk about that a little bit. So, how I got to be in this world, what brought me here was my own digestive health journey. So, many years ago, as a child, struggled with a lot of things that I didn't realize had a link to my digestive tract, but most definitely did. And I'll explain sort of more of that as we dive in. But I was a child that really struggled with eczema. I had chronic tonsillitis. I got my tonsils taken out at the age of 5, even though it was the era where they were not wanting to do that anymore. I had lots of skin inflammation. I was sick a lot. I was chronically just like lots of colds and things like that. And so it was quite a journey. And then when I hit my early 20s, what started to present for me was moving into more digestive issues. So from here, what really happened here is that I got to this place where I would look bloated by the end of the day. I'd wake up with a flat belly. By the end of the day, I was chronically bloated. It looked like I was about 5 months pregnant. I was running to the bathroom anywhere from like 8 to 10 times a day and really struggling with that. And for anyone who, assuming most of us in here are struggling with varying degrees of digestive issues, and it can be debilitating in our lives in terms of travel and at work and going to events, going to restaurants, all of it. It can be, and it was getting to be quite debilitating for me of not wanting to leave anywhere where I was not within like an eyesight of a private washroom. And so I went to doctor after doctor, got lab work, I got ultrasounds, I got stool tests done through the conventional medical model, and everything just kept coming back normal, normal, normal. And finally, a doctor told me that, oh, well, everything looks fine. We're just going to classify you as IBS. And for anyone that doesn't know this, the IBS diagnosis is actually formulated as a diagnosis of exclusion, meaning we don't know what's wrong with you, but we need to put you in a tight, needy, like little box for us to understand you or to put you somewhere. We don't want to say we don't know, so we're going to classify it as IBS. And that's not me being cheeky. That's literally like what it is, what the classification of IBS is. So I did ask my doctor if there was anything that I could be eating different. This is obviously long before I became a digestive health nutritionist. And my doctor said maybe lay off the coffee. was like his one and only suggestion at that time. And I was like, I don't drink coffee. I'm like one of these weird people in the world that actually does not like coffee. I don't know if there's anyone else there listening to me today talk about coffee or not a coffee fan, but I feel like there's always like maybe one that joins me, but most people are like, what are you talking about? But I was like, okay, I don't like coffee, but so like, what else have you got? And he really didn't have anything. And at the time, I was so frustrated by that, by this idea that like, he wasn't giving me any sort of, okay, now what do I do, like in terms of diet? But I now learn, and this has come, explained to me by doctors themselves when I have worked alongside medical doctors now, is that in the average medical school, and this goes across Canada and the United States, doctors, even in some of the best medical schools on the planet, only get about 45 minutes of nutrition training when it comes to diet, which blew my mind when I heard that, especially because research currently shows with chronic digestive issues, diet is the number one piece that can actually play such a significant role with this. So, luckily, at that time, I found my way into a naturopathic doctor's office who, was the first person to ask me what I was eating, the first person to show me things that I thought were healthy were actually inflaming my belly. And so she handed me a book called Nourishing Traditions. I think it should be a Bible in every book or every kitchen. And I read it cover to cover. And nobody reads that book cover to cover. I always wish I always mean to bring it to this to show you guys. It's literally thick. Like it's like a really thick book. And the only way I can describe why I did that, because when I came back and told my naturopathic doctor I did that, she's like, nobody reads that book cover to cover. But I did. But for me, you did too, Rosie. Yeah. For me, it was an awakening. Like I read it, it was like a deep remembering, like deep in my soul, in my body, that like of how we are meant to be eating, like what our bodies have evolved to understand and know when it comes to the food that we're putting in our body. So I used that book. I dove into it. I transformed the way I was eating and came out of it completely digestive symptom free. It took some time to really, really work through that. And I was like, wow. I'm like, why was this not my first step? Why did I go through? And this was a journey of years before finally getting to that place. And from there, I even had to go deeper into some deeper healing, even beyond that book, just from other aspects of my digestive health and some heavy metal stuff that I was going through as well. But it was like the foundation. It was a foundation that just put me on the right path for my healing. And so I got inspired, was so deeply inspired by that whole process. I was like, I need to tell people about this. Like more people need to know about this, about, what our bellies need and what they're asking for. So from there, I went to become a certified nutritional practitioner, otherwise known as a holistic nutritionist. And from day one, I was like, I'm specializing in digestion. This is my key. This is all I do. If someone comes to me for weight loss, I'm like, how's your gut health? We can we can go there. It's not something I don't do anything beyond gut health because it affects so many parts of our body that we'll learn about today. But it is just in Chinese medicine, they refer to our gut as our earth. It is the core, the center of our well-being. It is just the health of our guts ripple out into the rest of our bodies. It's so powerful. And I've seen this just time and time again. And the information that I'm going to share with you here is that we are going to go through the digestive tract and understand how she works. And then these symptoms that frustrate us, this is our beautiful belly's wisdom. She is speaking just like very loud and clear. And just we haven't been taught to pause and really listen and understand what these symptoms mean. So that's what we're going to do today. It's the information I wish every woman, man, child knew starting their digestive healing journey. It's the information I wish that I had starting this journey. But my journey was my journey because it brought me here. I'm so grateful for the journey that I had because I am here now supporting women to shorten the amount of time that they spend digging for answers and digging for truths in this world. All right. Is that making sense? So we're gonna do what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna take us on a journey through the digestive tract. I'm gonna use some slides because it helps me keep on track. I can sometimes go on like huge tangents on poop and digestion. I talk a lot of poop, so we're gonna do that today. So I'm going to take us on a journey through it, and I want to try in our time together. I have you until 12:15. So Pacific Standard Time. I realize there's, you know, different time zones that we're in right now. But so I have you for that long, and then I'm going to try and just give you so much wisdom and inspiration in that time. At the end, I do have an invitation for my Sacred Gut Healing program, is where I dive deep with women with this work and deeply support them. So I'll be sharing about that at the end of this. But before we get to that, even I'm gonna make sure that you have so much wisdom that comes through in this workshop today. The other thing that I'm going to do too is also share with you my starter pack, which I'll do at the end. And these are kind of like the first key things that I love, that are just beautiful for just calming things down and getting a bit of clarity in the body. So I'll share that at the end as well. Don't let me forget. I have a note to myself, but I sometimes just start talking and get going because I get really excited about this topic. And so, if anyone has any questions throughout this workshop as I'm going, maybe just type them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them in real time because I love doing that. I love doing a workshop where it's more interactive. I've done this workshop so many times, but every time I do it, it's different because I really try and tailor it to what everyone is asking and needing and maybe what's coming through for them. So, but if there's a question that I feel like might take some time, I might table it to the very end. And I'm happy to stay. I want to really make sure that I'm done here at 12:15 because I know everyone has full busy lives, but I'm happy to stay on as long as anyone needs at the very end if anyone has questions or want to talk anything through further and just get some more clarity. So I'm happy to do that. Does that make sense? All right. Amazing. So I would love to hear, um, just so I can tailor this and know where to dive a little bit deeper on and maybe to glaze over a few things, but what are some current digestive symptom or like what is your like biggest digestive symptom coming through for you right now? If you can post in the chat, specific digestion. Let's keep it specific to our bellies, of what's coming through right now. What's present in your body? Bloating. Yeah, I feel like bloating is a big one. That's usually across the board. Constipation. Yeah. I love one of my favorite things is like getting women pooping on a regular basis. Get really excited about that. Constipation. Yeah, we're having a lot. Okay, I'm going to spend some time on constipation today. And actually, there's going to be something great in that starter pack for you constipated ladies. Bloating, constipation, heartburn. Yes. I'm going to give some beautiful insight on heartburn. Tightness from stress. Ooh, yeah. Bloating, gas. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Keep them coming if you haven't already posted. But now I'd love, is there heartburn, acid reflux? We'll get into the emotions and the gut brain connection, Carmen, for sure. Yeah. All right. And now I'd love if anyone has any other, if you're open to sharing, if anyone has any other health symptoms that are present to you right now, maybe that's seemingly non-digestion. If we can post those in the chat now. Ooh, dental issues. I love how you're going there with that. Ooh, skin sclerosis. I'm just making notes because I want to make sure I connect some dots. Menopause symptoms. Oh yeah, let's We'll talk about hair hormones. Skin, yes. That was a huge part of my journey as I shared. Okay, great. Tired, burning eyes, deteriorating vision, gum deteriorating, loss of hearing, psoriasis. Ooh, love beaming you, Hallie. Arthritis. Yeah, that was on my list to talk about too, of sore joints and things. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Skin. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was big for me when I was going through I actually always thought my skin was meant to have like this wild rosy, like this rosacea look to it. And then I healed my gut. And then people started complimenting me on my skin for the first time in years. And I was like, what just happened? Like, oh my goodness. All right, great. Thank you so much for everyone for sharing that. It really helps me to tailor this and where to dive deeper on. Okay, so I'm going to pin myself now. Do, 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 do. Give me a moment as I work through my technology, and I'm going to share my screen and pull up my slides. All right, and then I just need to, 1 second. Thanks for everyone's patience. All right, and I am going to just going to hit present here and we'll go to full screen. All right, can everyone see that okay? Oh, and I'm actually all the way at the end. Pardon me as I back it up. Did everyone get all of that? All right. All right, so we're gonna move through this now. Everyone still seeing that? Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, so our goal for this workshop is just for understanding what your digestive symptoms are really trying to tell you. We have this like common thing, and I was like this when I was moving through my digestive journey, and I've spoken to so many women where they feel like their bodies are broken or just like something is wrong and just like what is going on, you know? So but these symptoms are really our body's way of communicating with us. It's her wisdom really shining through. And we just need to learn to listen. We need to learn to listen. So they are her messages. And so we have some very common digestive symptoms, and some of these were named. Actually, I feel like most of these were named in our conversation already: bloating, excess gas, diarrhea or soft stool, abdominal pain, constipation, heartburn, nausea. Did I get them all? Yeah. So we have these like very obvious digestive symptoms that can present, and we're like, yes, those are clearly my belly. And then we have our not so obvious digestive symptoms that can come through. We can see things like depression and anxiety, hormonal imbalances, skin issues. This could be eczema, acne, psoriasis, rosacea, brain fog. This is such a big one in the women that I work with. And luckily, one of the first symptoms to clear when we start healing the gut is that brain fog. Allergies and food sensitivities. Seasonal allergies are hay fever. A lot of people don't realize these are gut and toxic overload in the body, but they most definitely are. Ooh, my thing was I couldn't see it. Chronic infections as well. So so when we are, there's a big immune piece that exists in our gut, and we can see that happening, when we can see chronic infections, and this is what I experienced as a child when our belly is not in a good stable place. So I like to point this out because we have these very obvious digestive symptoms, but then we have other symptoms in the body that it's very much related that it's coinciding. And what can happen is that as we're healing the gut, we see a lot of these symptoms alleviate. I'm gonna just autoimmune anxiety. All right. I'm gonna keep when I have my screen share on, I can't always see the chat. So I'm gonna pop in there every once in a while and throw it up just to double check if there's any questions. All right. So this is what we're going to be learning. We're going to be connecting some dots today. My goal is to give you just like so many big, beautiful aha moments when it comes to your own health and healing and digestive health. And I love to start off with this quote because it's like one of my favorites of all time. And it is, I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I have been waiting my whole life for this. And this is just like such a beautiful quote. I get like, like when some people feel truth, they like get goosebumps. Everybody always talks about like, oh, I got goosebumps hearing that. My tear ducts activate when that happens to me. I don't get goosebumps. So like when I read that, like my tear ducts like start activating a little bit because it's so true as women of just like reconnecting with our bodies and our bellies and our brains as like our friends, like reconnecting with her in that way and not looking at her like she is broken. You know, we're not broken. We just need to be heard. All right. I already shared a little bit about this, but our gut is our earth. This is very much old, ancient Chinese medicine wisdom. I love this picture of the earth because I feel like it kind of looks like the gut, like when you look at like the digestive tract, but that's just my nerdy. Maybe I see the gut everywhere. I'm like, oh, there's the intestines and coming down. You'll see I have some other images that I have up as we go along. But, what happens in our gut does ripple out into the rest of our body and our brains. And what you eliminate is just as important as what you eat. So, I like to say that because like the health of like what is happening with how quickly or how slowly we are digesting our food, what our bowel movements are like, it's really important to understand that we should be having, one complete, at least, 1 to 3 complete bowel movements every single day, making sure that those are happening, and I'll get into that once we get into the colon, making sure that those are happening within a 12 to 24-hour span. But I like to state like what that is because a lot of women are like, oh, it's normal for me to just have like a bowel movement or two a week, when just because something is common for you doesn't necessarily mean it's like how your body thrives as is. And I'll get into why it's so important for us to be pooping every day. But it's just so important for us to really know that like we could be eating the healthiest diet on the planet, but if there is inflammation happening in our belly coming at it from another way, it's really hard for us to really experience the goodness of that food or really, have it come through deeply into through our body, have all those vitamins and minerals and nourishment come through. We do need to give our belly some TLC when it comes to that. I saw a comment come up, so I just want to water retention. Oh, I'm still seeing some amazing. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start going through our, kind of have to keep moving my screen around a little bit. There we go. Oh no, that doesn't work. Ooh, you know what I'm going to do? Sorry. I don't know if you guys can see my thing moving around, but I'm gonna just, there we go. That's better. Sorry, I couldn't see my full screen. Okay, amazing. So a lot of people that like think like, oh yeah, look, we're gonna start on a journey through the digestive tract and we're gonna start with our stomachs, and we don't. We actually even, my first slide is the mouth, but we actually start digesting food as soon as we start thinking about it. So let's all start by think about sucking on a lemon right now. If everyone could do that, what happens? Do we feel like little saliva even happening? It is wild, but even as we start thinking about food, our body starts priming for digestion. It starts releasing different saliva. So in our saliva, there is something that is salivary amylase and is a carb digesting enzyme. So carbohydrates actually start digesting right in the mouth before it even gets to the stomach. But the when we start thinking about digesting our food, this is what happens. Our body starts producing all of these different digestive enzymes and gastric juices and things like that to help us digest it. So thinking about like in your kitchen chopping food when like the smells and beautiful are coming through, this is where digestion even starts, right before we even put anything in our mouths. And then we do put it in our mouths and we chew it and it gets coated in this beautiful saliva. Oh, we got one more coming in. This beautiful saliva that is full of amylase, which starts digesting things right off the bat. So it's so important for us to like really chew our food well. And I realize that sounds so simple, but if you take, one thing away from this, like really being mindful of how you're chewing your food, making sure you're coating it, making sure that it's being chewed into a paste. Because as we move through this journey of going through the digestive tract, as our food moves through, think about, how much harder it is for the rest of those components of your digestive tract when we have, bigger than normal chunks of food kind of moving through. It's just so much harder for our beautiful bellies when we do that. So chew, chew, chew. Absolutely. All right. Rosie, my spouse thinks that our children don't chew food enough or hard enough compared to our old ways of living, so they get relatively healthy gums to add more of this. It's time, is it considering acid in the stomach? Yeah, so something that's really fascinating with chewing, when we do this, when we chew, we have like little glands up here that actually stimulate stomach acid production. So a saying that I like love is that we should like be like drinking our foods and chewing our smoothies, So like even if you're like drinking a smoothie or something, it's like you're doing that action. It's really important for us to be chewing our foods like just like so deeply. So chew, 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 my friends. All right, after we chew and swallow, our food moves through our esophagus and down into the stomach. And I know I'm like a teeny tiny little square on your screen right now, but I like to point out where these digestive organs are in our body, just so you can understand. And if there is discomfort or some feelings and sensations coming through there, you can maybe pinpoint where this is coming from. So our stomach isn't, we are always like, oh, my stomach. This is the intestines. We'll get there in a minute. But our stomach is actually further up here, kind of right below, right at the last rib, and kind of like off to the side a little bit. So that's where our stomach actually is. And to be perfectly honest, not a lot of this is not our main digestive organ, or even like where a lot of vitamins and minerals are even absorbed in the body. But the stomach is often referred to as the blender. And so as we swallow food, it goes, it does a little blender action and really mixes our food up. And a really key, something special about our stomach that exists nowhere else in our body is the stomach acid. And I know when it comes to anyone in here who struggles with a heartburn or acid reflux or GERD or anything like that, we can get a real like, acid, we hate acid. But acid is actually, our stomach should have a pH of about a 2. And just to put that into perspective, because sometimes numbers don't really mean a ton to us, but when we have an acidity of about a 2, if you were to dump your stomach acid onto your table, it would burn a hole right through it. That's how acidic it is. Luckily, we have a beautiful mucous membrane that protects our stomach so it does not get a hole burnt into it, ideally. If we do, that's called ulcers. That's a whole different conversation. But that acidity is so important for several reasons. One, it helps to digest our food. It starts to break things down. There are specific vitamins and minerals that need an acidic environment in order for them to be digested well later on down the road. And this is how we start breaking down proteins. So protein, we talked about carb digestion starting in our mouths, but protein digestion actually starts in our stomachs. So this is like where, and protein is the building blocks for everything in our body, our skin, our hair, our nails, our digestive tract, our organs, like everything that has any kind of structure in our body is built from protein. So we need it. We need it deeply in order to do it. So the wisdom that can come through here, otherwise known as, symptoms, if we want to call it that, but the wisdoms that can show when our body is needing a bit of support or something different is this when we see things like GERD, heartburn, acid reflux, burping, even chronic nasal drip or bad breath is something that some of the women that I've worked with have experienced. Throat phlegm, like kind of like this, like constant clearing of throat. And these are often signs of is low stomach acid as opposed to stomach acid being too high. And I know some people might know that, but it can also be a little bit of a brain like, what? When you hear that, because we are almost like taught to like fear the acid, especially I know that it's heartburn and things can be super uncomfortable. But what happens here is that when there is a really high stomach acid, it stimulates the up here. I don't know if everyone can see my cursor, but right up here at the top of our, actually, it's even further up of our esophagus, we have a lower esophageal sphincter that stays slapped tightly shut. So when we swallow food, it opens when we drink, when we have food or liquids or whatever and comes out, it'll open and then stay tightly shut. And what stimulates that to stay closed, to stay super closed, is that high acidity. So when the stomach is acid isn't quite acidic enough or has been diluted too much, that little esophageal sphincter can get a little lazy and start to just waver and open so that when the stomach does that blender action, we end up with stomach acid splashing up on our esophagus, which is our esophagus runs all down our throat onto our, past our heart here. So that's why we feel it so deeply there. So it's so important for us to get our stomach acids up to like a really beautiful, potent place. And we do this very gently. And this is what we do in my sacred gut healing programs in terms of like raising the stomach acid, but doing so gently as we heal our throats and our esophagus at the same time. I talked about how that you can have mineral deficiencies. So if you have low iron, even though you eat lots of iron sources like red meat, this could be the stem. This is usually where I start with low iron, or if there's zinc deficiency or calcium deficiencies happening. Those in particular, those three minerals need really acidic environments in order to digest properly and be absorbed into the body. So that is our stomach. I'm just going to double check. We don't have questions. Post some questions if you feel like anything was unclear. Hope we're good. We're going to move on to the liver and gallbladder and pancreas. So these are like, food doesn't go through these organs, but these are what we'd like to call like digestive supportive organs. So what the liver does is it produces something called bile. This bile is concentrated and stored in our gallbladder, which is that little green guy right there. And then as we digest, that bile gets released down into our small intestine where it joins up with food. And why we need bile, why that's so important is it's key for fat digestion. And it might feel like, oh, yay, we won't digest fat. We're gonna, lose some weight. We don't actually. Our bodies needs fat for our skin, for our hormones. This is where we can see hormone imbalances happening. Our immune cells are precursor to that as well. So we need good, healthy, nourishing fats within our body. Pancreas, our pancreas, which is this little like bumpy guy here, is secretes different digestive enzymes, pancreatic enzymes, and something called sodium bicarbonate. So remember how acidic the contents in our stomach are? The sodium bicarbonate gets released from the pancreas to dilute that down to neutralize the acid as it goes now through the rest of the body. So, the wisdom of the belly that can shine through here is that when we are not digesting fat sufficiently, or if we get this more higher toxic load in the body, because our liver is also, our liver does many other things than I listed there. I was keeping it more tuned in to digestion and things, but it also is a key detoxifier within our body. And when this is too high, when we're not digesting our food or our fats very well, we end up with diarrhea. For anyone who, if you eat something like fatty and you like struggle with your digestion afterwards, we can see weight gain. So if we're not digesting fat well, the body thinks it's starving for fat and will actually store it more. Hormonal imbalances. I already talked about how fat is our precursor to hormones. So if there's not enough materials, it's hard for the hormones to produce a balanced amount of what you're needing. This is where we can see struggles with like PMS or, and then struggle into like menopause and beyond even. Um, Low fat soluble vitamin absorption. So, our fat soluble vitamins are our vitamins A, D, E, and K. So, we just can't get enough of them without, they need to be with fat in order for us to digest them and absorb them properly. And we can actually end up with high cholesterol as well. Our liver and gallbladder will exit any excess cholesterol in the body, they will release. And so, if that's not moving in an efficient manner, then it can hold in the body and we can end up with high cholesterol levels as well. I saw a few questions pop up, so I want to double check it. Hormone balancing. Yeah, for sure. So this is where most of the when it comes to hormones and things, I know a couple of really amazing digestive or amazing hormone nutritionists, and they all have gut healing stuff built into their protocols. Like it's so important when it comes to our hormones. That is another term for baking soda. Yeah, it's similar. For those who have had their gallbladder removed. Oh, I was just about to bring this up too. Okay. How does eating or bathing in baking soda affect us? You know what? That's a bigger topic, Rosie, that I love. Put a pin in that. Let's talk about that at the end if you're good with that, because I feel like that's a bigger conversation. And but I will briefly touch on gallbladders that have been removed. My one of my first jobs as a nutritionist was I worked in a supportive cancer care center alongside medical doctors and everything. It was, they got the whole thing with them. So I worked with a lot of women who, due to their cancer diagnosis, had their gallbladders removed. And I will say that almost all of them would put on like a bit of weight, like 5 to 10 pounds at least, like after getting their gallbladders removed. So that's how important it is to actually what your gallbladder does. The beautiful part of our body is that she will start overcompensating in other areas. The liver starts picking up the slack a little bit and starts like it's really beautiful to witness the body when she is supported and how she can rebalance herself. I do love, and I love talking this through in the Sacred Gut Healing program, starting off with like a really good digestive enzyme, one that in particular contains ox bile, and that's something that is a great way to support the body, like as she's rebalancing and working things out. So many ways to support your body, even without a gallbladder. Great question. All right, we're going to move on to the small intestine. And so after our body, goes through the blender, goes in and comes out after it's been in there, it comes into our small intestine. And our small intestine is not that small, so you can see it here. It is about 22 to 23 feet long, maybe upwards of 25 feet. Everybody's body is different, so it depends. And it's actually if you were to spread it all out, it's like, spread open out the whole small intestine, it actually covers it's about the size of a tennis court. I recently just heard like Dr. Josh Axe, I think, say it was two tennis courts, but I'd always heard one tennis court. But anyway, it's a big, it's huge. It is huge, the surface area of your small intestine when you spread it all out. And the reason why this is so big is that this is the main site where nutrients are absorbed. So the stomach does a lot of work on breaking things down and then slowly releasing it into the small intestine, where then it makes its way slowly through, that 22 to 25 feet through and breaking down further and further and further. And then different sites of the small intestine absorb different vitamins and minerals. So, this is a key site for absorption. This is a key site for also protection. Um, it We have a lot of immune cells that exist on the lining of our digestive tract of that small intestine that helps us decide, that decides what is friend or what is foe and will attack things that exist in there. So it's such a key area for protection in our own bodies. And the wisdom that can come through here, the signs and the symptoms and the different pieces, is we can experience gas and bloating and abdominal pain in here if there is discomfort. I'm going to I'm going to take a pause for a moment and just explain bloating because bloating happens for a couple of reasons. One, it can happen through microbiome imbalance. I'll get to the microbiome. I think it's in the next couple of slides where I'll explain that a little more deeply. But the other reason why it can happen is if food is not being properly digested in the body and it turns into fermentation in the body. For anyone that makes their own fermented foods, it bubbles, it off gases. That's what also happens with food in your belly. And we love fermented foods for our body, but not foods actually fermenting in our body. And that's why another reason why that high acidic stomach acid is so important and why it's, the health of our intestinal lining is so important to help things to break down properly so they're not fermenting in your belly. So I wanted to explain that bloating piece because I would say of the women I work with, like 99% of them have varying degrees of bloating and discomfort in that when it comes through with bloating. So it's a big one. So it's good to understand where your bloating may be coming from. All right. Leaky gut can happen here as well as in the colon. I have a slide on leaky gut. I'll explain that in a minute. And this is the leaky gut becomes like the cornerstone or the root of where food sensitivities and intolerances and even autoimmune stems from. So I'll take some time on that in a minute. And then something else that can happen here is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. For anyone who has ever heard of that or had a diagnosis, if you don't, no big deal, but it is typically our microbiome exists within our colon, which is the big guy that wraps around here. This is our colon, our large intestine. But in the middle here is our small intestine. So ideally, all of our microbiome or the majority of our microbiome exists here in the colon. But what can happen is if things are moving too slowly, and this often happens with my constipated ladies, is that the microbiome starts backing up in the small intestine where it's not really meant to be. We're not where we're meant to have a high density of microbes in there. And so that's where we can see some bloating and things happening in there for sure. Okay, making sure we still understanding, we still good. Be great. All right. All right. So large intestine. Just going to move this out of the way. Our large intestine, otherwise known as our colon. So this wraps around. So our small intestine, as I was mentioning, kind of like if you put your hand over your belly button, that's where your small intestine is. And then wrapped around it, going above, going down, This is where you see the colon. This is where it is. Uh, this is where that is the home of our largest microbiome. We actually have microbiomes all over our body, but it's the home of our largest one. Not a ton of vitamin and mineral absorption happens here. But that mostly happens in the small intestine. But we see a lot of vitamin K being absorbed here, as well as B vitamins, which are great for like energy and many other things. It also absorbs a lot of water. So up until this point, your stool will be quite liquidy. It's called chyme, and it will. This is where you start to get form in your bowel movements. Ideally, is that as it moves through the colon, it starts absorbing water. Fecal matter are stored here right at the tail end of it. And our ideal transit time from the time we put some food in our mouths to the time it comes out the other end is 12 to 24 hours. So that's ideal. And a way that we can measure that, because this isn't always obvious. It sometimes is where you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't pooped in 2 days. Then it can be quite obvious that yours is clearly longer than 24 hours. But I had a woman in my sacred gut healing program years ago who I really sensed that we could tell just from other symptoms in her body that things were moving quite slowly, that things were just like not. She was having a daily bowel movement, but things were really just feeling slow and sluggish in her body. And so we did something called the beat transit test. And there in your starter kit that I'm going to share at the end, there is a how to do a beat transit test in there because it's great to do before stepping into the sacred gut healing program of just having that wisdom and knowing your transit time, which is why I love to include it in that starter pack. But it's great to understand what's happening there. So there's full instructions of how to do it. But when she did her beat transit test, her transit time was upwards of like 5 to 6 days, even though she was having like a daily bowel movement. So I like to share that story. I have her permission to share it. Because it's just like such a wow, like when you understand that, and when things are moving too slowly in the body. Actually, I'm going to switch my slides because we're getting into the wisdom from the belly. So when things are moving, a bit too slowly in the body, by the time it hits the colon, what can happen if it's sitting in there too long, we can reabsorb toxins that the body worked really hard to digest and filter out for you, or like to that the liver had worked really hard to filter out. You can reabsorb excess hormones that the body had said, like, oh, we have a little too much estrogen. I'm going to filter it out. We're going to poo it out. But, oh, wait, then it sits in your colon for a while. And actually, when the colon is reabsorbing all this water, it reabsorbs extra hormones and extra toxins and things like that there. So that's why it's important for us to make sure that is moving. And so like I said, I love supporting women in my sacred gut healing program in terms of like making sure that we are having our daily bowel movements and keeping things moving. Because it can feeling really stuck in the body when our toxic load in our body is a lot higher. We can feel it a lot in other places. We can get headaches, we can get brain fog, we can get the sore joints, everything that kind of happens there. Other things that happen in the large intestine, this is where bloating as well. If that microbiome piece, gas, if there's inflammation, we often can feel pain. Diverticulitis is like where we get little inflammation pockets. That kind of can go hand in hand with constipation, usually, just with that inflammation, but not always. We sometimes can see it in more softer, quicker stools as well. So yeah, those are a few things that can go there. I saw a question pop up, so I just want to, our commenter. Could a repeating bladder infection and or UTI be a symptom of gut digestion imbalances? Now I'm thinking an imbalance or microbiome in my intestine. Yeah, totally, 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 totally. So something that was a part of my journey was also I had interstitial cystitis. And that's where you get little ulcers on your bladder. And when I healed my belly, it completely went away. So this is, our bladder is a detox, like our kidneys are a detox pathway as well. But we have microbiomes, like I was mentioning elsewhere within the body. And so when the microbiome is off balance in the gut, it can kind of affect everywhere else in the body as well. And we can end up with like these reoccurring bladder and UTI infections. And then we can get into this cycle of like we take antibiotics, which sometimes is necessary, especially if it's looking like it's going up into the kidney. So always talk this through, you know, with your health professional. But like we can get into a cycle of taking antibiotics, which then clears out your microbiome. And then pathogenic microbes will actually come back quicker than health promoting ones, health benefiting microbes. And then it'll kind of repeat the cycle with it for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that made sense, Carmen. But definitely a correlation for sure. Okay. I'm going to explain leaky gut right now. This is a super cute photo or little drawing. I did not do it of the intestinal lining. And so our intestinal lining, the reason why I chose it, it just like made it really simple. It wasn't too technical, so I could explain it. But our intestinal lining is like one cell thick. It's very surprising, but it's one cell thick. And so our cells are very tightly it's like smushed together right now. These are called tight junctions. It's very, very tight. These are actually called our villi. So we have like little finger-like, and this is how we increase the surface area for nutrient absorption and everything there. But what happens, and I wish I had a photo too of like what it looks like when it's not, but what can happen is if there is if the intestinal lining has been compromised, what it can often look like is like these cells, instead of being plump and smushed together, end up looking like little shriveled up raisins, and you have bigger than normal gaps that go through right into the digestive tract or go right into the bloodstream. So what happens is normally in a happy, in a gut that's moving, well, is that food gets broken down into teeny tiny microscopic little vitamins and minerals and amino acids, and then they squeeze through this only when they are like at the right size. In order to do so, then they move into the bloodstream and go work their beautiful magic into the world, or into your body. But what happens is when you have leaky gut, when there is bigger than normal gaps that exist within this intestinal wall, what happens is that bigger than normal food particles will start making their way and getting into the intestinal lining. So when that happens, the body goes, "Whoa, what is that? Stranger danger. I do not recognize it. Let's attack it. Let's launch this attack on it." And then they're like, "Oh, phew, got it. Amazing." So the whole inflammatory response happens when they do that. They attack it and then they catalog it. They put a little library in there and be like, "Okay, got it. We nailed that. Gluten. Do not like it. So I am going to, or dairy or something." So the next time, so and so eats this piece of dairy or that whatever, we're going to attack it right off the bat before it even like gets to the bloodstream. That way we can handle it quicker. And so this is how food sensitivities and intolerances are born, is through that process. And then what else happens is that we can end up with different toxins that the body is excreting also coming in through those gaps coming through. We can end up with like little parasites, little bugs, little like pathogenic microbes like coming in, going directly into the bloodstream. And this is where we can see just like a higher toxic load happening in the body, and the liver's got to work like overtime and all the other detox organs, which we don't have time to get into today. But we can see things like headaches or migraines and joint pain. This is where arthritis can happen, different skin issues. This is often a huge stem of like the skin issues coming into play. And so much more that happens here. So it's a key reason why things happen in that way. I hope that makes sense because it's something that's really important to understand. All right. And so just a quick note about celiac disease. I don't know if anyone is celiac or has a diagnosis or thought that they would be, but celiac disease is not a gluten allergy. It's something I just like to explain because not enough people with the diagnosis or know people really understand it. It is autoimmune. And so the intestinal lining, where I was just talking about with, there's a huge immune component that is in there. And in the microbiome, it's where our body really helps determine what is friend and what is foe. The microbiome will often train the body's own immune cells to determine what is friend and what is foe in there as well. So it's where if something is inflamed or getting confused, the body can get a bit confused and start attacking itself, which is what autoimmune is. The auto is the body's own immune cells that are attacking it, attacking her. So the body, what celiac is when the body is attacking its own intestinal lining, and the trigger to do that is stemmed through consuming gluten. So I saw a little comment pop up, so I just want to make sure. Stepson has Crohn's. Yeah. So Crohn's is also autoimmune in nature as well, and very much related to this whole the whole leaky gut element that I was just talking through as well, for sure. So a lot of those. I think I've explained a lot with the microbiome, but I will take a pause here for a minute. But a lot of times with those like Crohn's and colitis and like irritable bowel diseases, there is so much that can be done through like kitchen medicine and healing. Like I've seen people where it's not a thing for them at all, and they're not on medications for it. And where like they never have a flare up again as well when they really go deep with that healing. So, so powerful. Ooh, I backed it up. Microbiome, I've already really, really been diving into this as well, but it is, the trillions and trillions of millions of gajillions of different microbes. This includes bacteria, this includes viruses, yeast, and that sounds really weird and gross, but when things are balanced, when that whole ecosystem is balanced, it is like a beautiful rainforest balance. There's so much good that happens here. They help with digesting foods. Our immune cells are in here that we've already talked about. This is also actually the part that I don't think I've addressed here is talking about our brain health when it comes here, because 95% of our body's serotonin, or our brain's serotonin, which is our feel-good hormone, exists in this digestive tract with if in the microbiome. So it's such a key element to that gut brain connection. Key piece the when it comes to a precursor to melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, is serotonin as well. So you can see how like one thing kind of goes a little funky, can stem to another thing, and then it ripples through the body where like a microbiome that's imbalanced can actually affect affect our mood, affect our sleep, affect our hormones. Like it keeps going there. Hormone rebalancing happens in the microbiome as well. I could probably do a whole workshop just on what's happening inside this microbiome. It's so fascinating. So fascinating. So when it comes to the microbiome, when things become off balance, I don't have a huge amount. I just want to be mindful of my time here, but there's lots of different things that can cause dysbiosis or imbalance in that. That's dysbiosis is kind of the technical term for when pathogenic microbes far outnumber the health benefiting microbes in your microbiome. So diet, we feed them, they eat what we eat. So a diet, especially even in the past, like if you had I had a huge childhood where I ate a lot of packaged processed foods. And this was a huge piece of my journey. Refined sugar, your white sugar, your brown sugars, when it's those pathogenic microbes love those. Different medications can play into here. I'm not going to advise anyone to go off their medications, but it's good to know because I didn't know. And Was on birth control pill for years in my 20s, and I think that actually this was like where a lot of like the digestive pieces really ramped up for me. Antibiotics, we already know. Different steroid medications can also affect the gut, as well as acid blockers, which are common what we use for heartburn and things. So yeah. Children that are C-section born at birth and formula fed and or formula fed at birth are known to have, struggle with more microbiome issues as well. Sharing that with love and, because we all, have different journeys in motherhood, and I always like to just honor whatever your journey was there. And then pathogenic infections. You had a bad batch of food poisoning or traveler's diarrhea or something like that. This can actually throw things off as well. Just gonna pop up here. Hmm, totally. Okay, I'm just reading comments, but I'm gonna go through and then probably and then come back to questions. I think we're at that place now. All right. The gut brain connection. I've heard a few people bringing this up, so I'm so happy that we're here now. So, the gut brain connection is something that science like took a long time to finally catch up with ancient wisdom about this. This is common in a lot of like really old traditional types of Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, but to recognize. But it took a while for modern medicine to catch up with the research, but now it has, and there's so much research showing this connection, and we even understand what's happening. Um, we can go deeper on it, but in a very simple terms of how I like to explain it is that we have like two modes within the body, and we have our sympathetic system and our parasympathetic system. So sympathetic system is this is where we get into our fight or our fleet for our fight or flight or freeze mode within the body when you are stressed. And this was designed from ancestral times when, let's say, we would come across a saber-toothed tiger and our body goes, whoa, we need to fight or flight or play dead or whatever in order to make sure that we survive this physical craziness that we're going through right now. So it would do things like shutting down different systems in the body that was not necessary to stay alive in that moment, meaning that it would suppress digestion. Don't really have time to digest, maybe that leg of lamb you just ate if you need to like fight a predator. So it would like suppress digestion, suppress your immune system, suppress hormones and things like that, stuff that was not necessary for survival in that moment, and really put all of the resources into raising your blood sugar so you have a lot of energy, dilating your pupils, raising your heart rate, like really like making sure that you have the physical strength and capacity in order to fight or flee or freeze this physical danger that's in front of you. And the only problem is that this exists. It's amazing. It saves our lives when we need it. But our body also kind of reacts in the same way when we are just having stresses in our day-to-day lives, when we have overscheduled ourselves, when we are in constant maybe disagreement with family members, or are in have all of the stresses of life, when we've overbooked ourselves, too much with too little time. When we're constantly in that state, our body does the same thing and actually suppresses digestion in this state. So on the other end of the spectrum, when we are in more of a parasympathetic mode, this is otherwise called our rest and digest mode. Our body is like, our body just like gives a big exhale and it's like, oh, look at that. Heather had some soup for lunch. I think I'm going to go digest that now. And not even just digest it, but I'm going to digest it just well and really completely because we are relaxed. We are safe. We are good. Oh, look at that little cold, like bug that she just inhaled from wherever. Let's just fight that really well and deeply. Our body does so much better in that state. But unfortunately, many of us operate more from our sympathetic system. We can't be in both states at the same time. We need to be in one or the other. So, it's easy to say just relax, just relax and you'll digest better. But there is a practice in your starter kit that I love to do before meals. And it's why there's like a whole module in my Sacred Gut Healing program that has like different practices that helps train the body to go into that rest and digest mode, and stay there more frequently, and also different practices for we have a vagus nerve that connects our brain to our belly, and there's different practices on grounding that and actually stimulating it even a little bit in order to help that gut brain connection be really smooth and really calm. So whole module on it, and it's an important piece of the Sacred Healing program, and it's so important for us to feel safe enough to heal. This is something that we don't realize, is that why our healing may be stumped or plateaued is that this level of safety has not been cultivated at this time. All right, so I'm going to go quickly through here, but so when it comes to the protocol that I walk women through, there's four key pillars that we walk through, and one is diving into ancestral eating. I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. We're adding in powerful gut healers. And we can get really stuck. I know I was in this of like cutting out foods, cutting out foods, cutting out foods, cutting out foods, and wondering why we're not healing. And you can tell now that I've explained the leaky gut, why we cut out foods, but then we have another sensitivity that pops up. We cut that out. Oh, there's another one because we're not adding in our powerful gut healers. Making sure that we're doing lots of digestive detoxification alongside this, because when there's a toxic load in the body, helping the body cleanse that out helps us feel better. Great piece for like joint pain as well as eczema and skin clearing and things like that. And then also nourishing that gut brain connection that we just, explained a little bit in there, like really making sure that our body feels safe enough to heal. All right. So I'm just going to explain sort of the ancestral concept when it comes to ancestral eating. And if, in a nutshell, ancestral eating, if we were so inclined, we could grow, raise, harvest, or hunt the majority of the foods that we're putting in our body. And this doesn't necessarily mean that we need to grow our own food or hunt our own food. You can if you are, yay. I'm so proud of you. But it also just like gives us guidance when we're in the grocery store, picking out the foods that we're feeding to ourselves and our families and our loved ones. Could I grow it? Could I raise this myself? When we have this guidelines in check, like when we really hold this as like a value of ours, then when the noise of all of the healthcare world out there, when because it's loud, the noise in the healthcare world is really like in nutrition world is really eat this, don't eat this, like. But if you hold this true, it's really easy to stay grounded in what an ancestral diet looks and feels like. And I use the example of like butter versus margarine. If we were so inclined, we could make butter in our own kitchen. Our great grandmothers recognized this as food. If we were going to try and make margarine in our own kitchen, we'd probably blow it up trying. There's a lot of science that goes into it. But there was a time where margarine was pushed as a healthy alternative to butter. So there was a time when eggs were demonized as well. I still hear that sometimes where I'm like, no, you can eat as many eggs as you want as long as it feels good in your body. You know, pay attention to your body and the wisdom she's giving you. But, you could raise chickens and harvest those eggs yourself. So yeah, it's what helps to stay grounded in the foundation of the Sacred Gut Healing Protocol. Key components for gut repair that we really dive into in there is quality protein, nourishing fats, cooked versus raw veggies. That's always so much more gentle on the body. And we learn how to make meat stock instead of bone broth. I don't hate bone broth. It's not, it's not like something that I'm like, never eat bone broth. I think it is a beautiful gut tonifier, but for gut healing, we actually do meat stock instead. And that's what we explain, what I go through in the Sacred Gut Healing program. Meat versus plant-based protein is something that I gently share with love. And in the years of doing this work, I have just found that the women and people I've worked with have their healing journey is just so much deeper, so much quicker when our focus is more on meat proteins. Our body just digests that more gently and more efficiently. Plant-based proteins can be really tough to digest. So it's something that I share with love and kindness because I know we all have different values when it comes to that. But it's something I just saw so much that it's hard to not say and share and and ignore. All right. And I'm going to just take the last couple minutes to share about my Sacred Gut Healing program. And I've been doing this program with women for years. I started doing it one on one with women, and it's now moved into a group program which you can purchase and then do it on your own time. And so this is the first time I'm actually doing it. We're going to do it live together in a group in community. And so it's 12 weeks. And what we're going to be doing in this program is it's live, it's with me. I'm with you every step of the way through it. And it's for women who are ready to just like really heal their digestion deeply and completely. We slow it down. This is not a quick fix. We're really going slow and deep and really going to the core and really getting a good foundation into your healing journey. It's for women wanting to learn how to transform your everyday meals into powerful gut healers. We're going to learn how to make medicine in your kitchen. I talked about meat stock, but there's so many other beautiful, beautiful remedies and elixirs and everything, different fermented foods for different specific wisdom coming through. And we're going to guide your body into a state where it feels safe enough to heal. So, prioritizing that nourishing gut brain connection that's coming through. And what you'll receive in the program is you get a full access to a program online, and this has a full recipe database. There's different trainings on different elements. I already kind of like there's a whole module on digestive detoxification. There's a whole module on how to introduce dairy in a healing way. There's modules on like how to use fermented foods and specifically to which ones, to which symptoms. And so you have access to all of that. And every 2 weeks, we'll have a live support call with me because there is like a foundational program, but we can always tweak it. Like for a woman who's struggling with constipation, and then there's a woman struggling with diarrhea, our focus for different healing foods is going to be different. There's always like a key foundation for both of them, but the where we go so those calls allow us to go deeper with each woman and get you on the right track so your healing is always moving forward rather than plateauing or stopping. So it allows us to just fine tune and pivot if you need to and really learn to listen to the body. We follow the body's lead and we kind of guide along that way. And then there's access to a private community for just ongoing support in between those two calls. And we begin on February 9th, which is happening in 2 weeks. And so the investment for this program is 3 monthly payments of 360 a month or 1,000 if paid in full. But I do have an early commitment rate right now that is 3 monthly payments of 288 a month or 777 if paid in full. Though this early commitment rate will be expiring on as of January 29th, which is I think Thursday. I think that's the actual date of it. Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Stop sharing. And I'm going to unpin myself now. Amazing. We're at 12:17. Yay. I hope that wasn't too much and such. I really wanted to like really give lots of wisdom in there. I am, oh, thanks, Enrique. I'm going to, before everyone leaves, and I can stay on and answer any questions that are coming through for anyone that may not have get answered. But give me a minute. I want to do this before I do anything. I want to make sure that everyone gets their starter pack. So bear with me while I do this and just quickly do this. So if anyone needs to hop off, you're welcome to. And if anyone does need to hop off and they are interested in the Sacred Gut Healing Program, I'll be sending an email out. Sorry, I'm trying to do this at the same time as talking, and I'm not really good at it. You see those people on Instagram that are like talking and walking or driving. I'm like, how do they do that? Like, I just cannot. All right. I think it got on there. Amazing. Let me know if everyone's able to access that okay. So, probably in an hour or two, depending on how long it takes for Zoom to just like upload this replay, an email will go with a replay. And there'll also be a link if you're interested in the Sacred Gut Healing Program and want to just hop on a call with me one on one and talk it through and make sure it's a good fit for you. I'm happy to do that fully free of charge because I always want to make sure that whoever is entering that program, it is a good fit for you as well. So yeah. Did that work for everyone? Were they able to open the starter pack? Just want to make sure it works. All right. All right. I'm just singing Rosie. I grew up in the Netherlands. My name is Roseanne. So it was really funny to see a heart from Roseanne. Oh, fun. That's so amazing. Fascinating. I'm convinced my daily gut pain and inflammation had something to do with my brain issues that was resolved years ago on both fronts. It can be, like something that's so interesting with that gut brain connection is that, our digestive tract, and that's kind of where I went, where like the things that are happening in there and inflammation happening there can affect your brain. And then also our brains can affect our gut. It's so wild how that can go hand in hand. It's why it's such a key, why it's like such a whole module to in our sacred gut healing program and why we prioritize it. I've just seen women that like don't prioritize it and they're always focused on the food and their healing journey is good, but then the women that like really like, okay, my gut brain connection, my food, coming at it from all areas, their healing journey is just different. It's so much more powerful and deep. Robin, thank you so much. You've given me more information and hope for the health problems that I've gone over the last 10 years of doctor runaround. Oh, that was me too. I'm interested in talking more about the program. Amazing, Robin. Look out for oh, you know what I'll do? I forgot this. I'm going to post the program. This is why people like have like assistants and stuff. So I'm going to post the program right here in the chat. So if you're wanting to have a look or you're ready, you're like, I am so in, I'm in already. You're welcome to go there. Just make sure that if you are signing up for it, that you make sure that you click on, there's a couple of links there in particular to get the early commitment rate. So make sure that I want to make sure you get the early commitment rate. Amazing. Download work. Thanks. Thank you, Roseanne. Thank you so much. Yeah, and you know what I have had so many women really talk about how, over the year I was like, is this just me? Is this how I am forever? And I would just like to share with that because I'm hearing Robin so much right there talk, just sharing about like the runaround for like 10 years. And I've worked women through this program, some that are like they've just started getting digestive issues and so they're really diving into it early, and some that are like this is how I've always been, like literally since birth, this is like what, which is why I like to explain some of the at birth things that can start going a little funky with our bellies. But our bodies blow me away. The human body blows me away constantly. And it started when I worked in the supportive cancer care center, just seeing like what level of healing is possible when we really, really support our body and give her exactly what she's asking for. It is wild, like the things that our body will do. And I think anything is possible. I really do. I really believe it. Yeah. Any questions? I'm happy to stay on if anyone else has any questions. Are we good? All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. If you do have questions, like I said, you're welcome to wait. That email will come through, and with a link to if you're ready to join us and join in the Sacred Gut Healing program. Yay! If you want any, just like, is this right? I'm not 100%. I'll put a link in there as well to book in with me for a private call, and we can just like talk it through for like 15, 20 minutes and just see. And I'm always very honest. If I feel like another route is going to be more supportive to you, I will. I absolutely will recommend it for sure. Um, you have confirmed something that my doctor may not understand. It's important to note any small symptoms because essentially those wisdoms seemingly what our body needs. It's all connected. It's all connected. It really is. It really is. Yeah, little things. And it's also like we don't need to go like so I don't like to be like, "Oh my gosh, what does that mean? What does that mean?" Like we don't need to go crazy with it. But it is, that's the beauty of those every the biweekly calls that we do in the Sacred Gut Healing program is such a beautiful way to just pause for a minute and be like, okay, what has been coming through? What has been going on? Let me pause with that a minute because we don't often just like pause with our bodies to really listen and figure that out. We don't need to go crazy, stress about every little thing, but also it's nice to really take that time to pause, listen. And then when we listen, when we start really checking in, we can often see a clearer path forward. It's like, what is my next right step on this healing journey? Yeah, finding the balance and creating the rainforest in the body. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, finding this beautiful balance for sure. And helping her feel safe enough to heal. I cannot express that enough of how important it is for our bodies to just feel really safe, and healing is just amplified in that safe space. The reason why I love doing this in community as well is that the women I find I did one-on-one for years for supporting. I've been doing this work for I think I'm at 12 or 13 years of supporting women with their bellies. And what became clear to me, I did one-on-one support for years, and then I ran a group program and I watched like women just heal in community together. A woman will just ask a question, and then another one will be like, I didn't even know I had that question, and you asked it for me. Or like someone will have some like beautiful insight, and it's like, oh my gosh. I had two women last year who were taking just happened to be in it at the same time. And so when I was doing monthly calls, they were like the aha moments that they had from each other. And I just kept being like, wow, if I were seeing these women both independently, each of them would not have had these like great aha moments that they both experienced multiple times through the work that they were doing. It just happens different in a one-on-one. So that's why I love doing group, and that's why I'm doing this as more of like a group experience together, and because of the power of just like healing within community, healing together in that way. And my communities are usually very small and intimate. It's not hundreds of people. It is like 5 to 10, so it's like a really beautiful, intimate container where everyone could be alongside each other on their healing journey and witnessing you and providing the support that each other needs with it too. It's so beautiful to witness. Yeah. All right. Amazing. All right, great. So expect an email in the next hour or two, depending on how long it takes for Zoom to upload on my computer. And of course, if anyone has any questions, reach out, book a call. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you or just anything that was coming through as well. All right. Amazing. All right. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your Thursday. Oh, you're welcome, Carol. I'm so glad that was helpful. Amazing. Take care. Thanks, Hallie.